So Chef Bruno, thank you so much for joining us today. Chef Bruno Feldeisen.
Very good.
Right?
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Excellent.
Thank you. And cookbook author of Baking with Bruno. So thank you so much for joining us today for this interview. Delighted and honored to meet you. My first question for you, Bruno, is your cookbook is called Baking with Bruno, a French baker's North American love story. So tell us why it's a love story.
Because I chose to leave France when I was quite young, as a young professional. I was 22, and I always dream of new ideas. And I thought moving to the States was a perfect opportunity. It's an open space, create open minds. And coming to North America, I did learn a lot. I think in Europe we have a tendency to believe that they know everything in terms of cooking. But coming to the States, I realized there is much more to learn. There is much more to a Eurocentric cooking story. Mm-hmm. And I love the idea of seeing food from immigrants being absorbed and being embraced by small town USA or Canada. I thought it's very dynamic, very creative. And, I spent almost 20 years in the States, in many cities, large cities, but whenever I traveled to small town, there was always a story behind a few restaurants. And I really, finding captivating. So, the book is about, me embracing, the North American approach of cooking. I think people enjoy food with a very open mind, which leaves the door to many exciting opportunities.
Definitely. So what was the inspiration for your cookbook?
It's easy to say I want to do a cookbook. Then when you sit down and try to develop the project, it's way harder. And I'm like, I don't want to do I knew I didn't want to do complicated recipes. I wanted to be straightforward. People could connect with them. People could feel comfortable. Mostly in baking and pastry, some of the books are extremely difficult. And I wanted the idea was you can go to your local Safeway, grab all the ingredients, easy, available, nothing too complicated. But yet still have a story behind. And, the book is to create memories in the kitchen as well. If the recipe are too complicated, nobody is going to hang out with you in the kitchen. If it's, because you're going to be so stressed and focused trying to make it. And so the idea was to, spend time together, have a good time, create memories. It's not about the end product, it's about the process.
Yeah, the process and being together and enjoying that delicious meal or recipe with your family.
I grew up where the kitchen was the center of the home. Then in the 80s, people gravitated to the living room, looking at the big screen. Now we don't even do this. We just look at our own little screen. So it's a very fragmented families. And I think going back to the kitchen helps you to put the family together to create those time, and definitely perfect time for the holidays. I think the basics are very important. Everybody wants to create or bake stuff from New York or, Madrid, and you don't always find the ingredients. And I always say, learn the basics, learn the core, and with that, you can be very creative. So, but I wanted to be sure a pastry cream, it's simple, it's sugar, eggs, egg yolks, and milk. But still, if you don't have the right ratio, it can be a bit too pudding-like, too stiff. So to do the basic recipe was important, but then you want to create some excitement in terms of flavors. A scone is a scone. But when you play with it, scone, cheesecakes, crème brûlée are the perfect platform to be very creative. So if you can make a cheesecake, a basic one, then the door is open to create as many as you want. Candy cane, like on a book. You can do a cotton candy cheesecake. You can do mushrooms. So as long as you know the basics, the core item, then it opens the door to a lot of creativity. like the scone, doing a nori lemon. I've done it for a seafood project for a seafood restaurant. But that recipe, we did it with thyme, rosemary. We did it with smoked oysters. And that makes a very unique scones. I did travel a few times to Japan. And, they always come up with those creative, like definitely for ice cream, but for cakes, And I always refer to that, if the Japanese can do such excitement about food, we should be able to do it as well with our own basic stuff. So any recipe you have in a book, you can interchange the flavor and still get the same result. So, like if you take the scones, you can replace the nori with chopped smoked salmon, with some smoked oysters, and you get a great product still at the end.
So you've had such a successful career in the USA, right? You were at the Four Seasons Hotel in New York. You owned a French-American restaurant in San Francisco. Actually, my mother's side of the family lives in San Francisco. Beautiful city, beautiful city. So what brought you to Canada?
Kind of, fate. I'm a US citizen, so I knew I could go back. I can go back anytime to do whatever I want. So, that removes some of the pressure of living in one country, because, you can go back anytime. So that was one step. I was living in New York, and I was doing a lot of business in Toronto. And I remember the lawyer who did my visa said, I'm going to do your landed immigrants. And I kind of forgot about it, never follow up, until one day I got my letter from the Canada immigration telling me that I could come and move to Canada. And at that time I was living in San Francisco. It's only 2.5-hour flight to Vancouver. Exchange rate was great. And like, hey, why not, jumping on a plane every weekend and a little getaway. And then also I wanted a change of scenery. When I was in New York, San Francisco, I did struggle with a lot of stress, anxiety, and PTSD. So it was a good break to, my career took a dive in terms of opportunities, definitely. But the break was needed. There was no other way. And so it was kind of a reset. And if I look at my career, like I have a good friend always told me, Bruno, you're like a cat with 9 lives. You're so fortunate that you can be very successful in France and move to the States start from scratch. Then move to New York and do it again, and move to Canada. Canada was a bit slower, I think. We tend to be more careful in terms of opportunities. We're not that enthusiastic. But the pace works for me. I'm happy, and no regrets. And knowing that I can always go back, and I do in normal time. I do a lot of business in Seattle, Washington State. So.
How long have you been in Canada for now?
15 years.
Wow, amazing.
But between 15 years, I had a project in northern Washington State, so I was there almost. I will commute back and forth between Vancouver and Bellingham every day. So I was in the state for 3 years, during that time as well.
Yeah. I wanted to pick up on something that you mentioned, Chef Bruno, about the anxiety. And I know that you're an advocate for mental health. Are you able to share a little bit more about your story, your experience with us?
Yeah. It took me a while to accept it or even to speak about it. I had a very abusive and non-normal youth. And I thought when I turned 18, and it's one of the reasons I left France too, because it's a kind of stigma that sticks around with you for a long time. France is a very elite society, and there is still a lot of caste in our society. So, if you're not from the right family, from the right town, you have a huge problem to go to the best school to go. And I remember when I moved to the States, seeing waiters telling me they're going back to law school. And I was like, this is so crazy, because in France, the school system is very elitist. And once you're out of the school system, you never go back. And then if you add to this my very unprivileged background when I was young, the odds of success are very limited. So it's one of the reasons, I did overcome and did well in France working with great chefs, but I wanted more than just that was offered to me. So, coming from a very unprivileged background, experiencing trauma and abuse when I was a kid, when I moved to the States, I felt everything was behind and I could move forward. And when I was in New York, I was about 30, 35, I think. Everything, great career, top of my game, as good as the top chefs. Then I started to experience anxiety and panic attacks. And that kind of frees you in a specific time where you cannot do nothing. You drop out from work, you cannot function technically, So it took me 10 years to get back on my feet. And I think the world of cooking, it is a tough, difficult place to work. It's not welcoming to anything that's non-white or straight for that matter. But on the other hand, it's still a place where you can do well without much. If you work for the right people in the right cities, you can do well. And I think I'm a perfect example. But it's not welcoming. I always say, I was talking to a meeting last night, and it's a white, bro, dominated world where it's not changing anymore. And sorry, am I still there?
Yep.
Sorry.
So you're good now.
So it's really to create, I think the kitchen gives you that chance. And it's one of the last fields left with music and art where you can do great with very little.
I love that. Oh, Bruno, thank you for sharing that story with us.
Yep.
I think it's
You're welcome.
Such an important message for everyone, especially as we are still, embracing as much as we can the restrictions of the pandemic, right? So many of us are struggling with mental health, and this is such a good message to share with them. Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Chef Bruno, you say the kitchen is the heartbeat of my house.
It is.
Tell us why. Yeah, I love that. Tell us why.
It's where everything happens. That's where you get your coffee in the morning and you start to speak your first words for the day. You set the tone for the day from that kitchen. You always gravitate to the kitchen to grab a snack. So we doesn't matter how big is your house or small. You always cross paths in a kitchen with your family members or your friends. So that's why I feel like kitchen. We order a lot of, not we, but in general, people do a lot of ordering outside food. But, there is nothing like baking simple cookies together. It really, it's like the glue of a family. And I see it. I have a young son, he's 14 years old. And if I want to get his attention, it's like, come with me in the kitchen. And, it's very valuable. And we forgot about it. More with baking than cooking. Cooking, you do it for survival. You cook something because you're starving. But baking, it's more about sharing, about celebrating, about giving. So it's the approach, but it's a bit different.
Yeah. You've been on so many TV shows, right? Chopped Canada, Donut Showdown, even Beat Bobby Flay. I remember watching that. How did you get started in the media, Chef Bruno?
I was one of the first chefs to go on, I think it was 95 when the Food Network started in New York.
Oh,
and everybody was saying that's never going to work. It's doomed to fail. And so I was one of the first chefs to do small cooking segment that I still have a tape, I think, somewhere. And I was looking, they will do, I think one camera guy will come to your kitchen, very bare minimums. Yeah, and kind of like it. I think, TV space is very creative, very welcoming. Never wanted to do a career out of it. So, the Great Canadian was pretty much coming my way without looking for it. Actually, I did say no twice at the beginning, and you came and you're like, it's like when you surf, you have a beautiful wave, you just ride it and enjoy it. And sometimes you don't ask why it's happening. You just do it and have a great time. But you always remember to stay grounded, to stay, it's not the main focus. I'm grateful for it. immensely grateful for that opportunity, but it's not my main, my main wave to write for sure, because, the day it stops, you need to move on and be happy and, we all have our strengths and weakness. There is a few stuff that I prefer to judge more than others. There is items I'm more comfortable. So we pick what we'd like on the judging. So let's say there is a cake to judge. If one of us is super excited about the design and the presentation, that person will take over that side of the judging, and then I will pick up on the content inside. So we kind of predetermined what we'd like to talk about. Sometimes, what we want is not to repeat another judge comments because we're wasting everybody's time. So we kind of agree beforehand, and we have our little technique. If something I want to talk, I will tap twice on our feet, and twice will be let me talk now. Once will be I don't know what to say. Can you please? So we have our little technique, but usually most of the time we have pre-work. Say, listen, I love that presentation. I got so excited. I want to talk about it. So I say, okay, it's yours, and I will pick up on when I do the tasting itself. We always start with maybe 100 ideas for the technical. We try them. We narrow it down to maybe 20. We try them at home. We give our feedback. I say, maybe that's not enough time. That's too much. And so it's, for us, judge, it's, the show itself takes 2 months of our time to shoot because we fly in a bit earlier. We do some rehearsal. And then another month pre-production to work on the program itself. We don't pick the program, but we part of the whole process. We don't have the final word on the program itself.
Yeah. These shows take time. All the behind the scenes production and post-production and music and everything. Yeah.
I mean, you look at it. Every episode, it's 2 days of shooting. There is 9 cameras, 10 hours a day. So it's a lot of footage to cut into to do a 50 minutes show. Yeah.
For sure. Tuesday night of this week, I did a virtual baking lesson with Colin. Yeah. He was making matcha shortbread. So Colin is a graduate of University of Toronto, where I also went to school. Okay. So as alumni, we are invited to these special events. And as soon as I saw this event, limited enrollment, right? As soon as I saw Colin, I signed up right away. And he was fabulous. And, he was one of our favorites on the show too.
Yeah, no, he's very, he's somebody who will do so well if he had his own show. So, so with 6 of the bakers from the 5 seasons, the one who live in Vancouver. So there was Karen, Jude, Sheldon was here last night. So it's a good group. Even within different seasons, they get along, they meet, they get together. So it's a great. I wish it was more like a winter episode, a summer, series, and But the show is done well. The show is done well in terms of writing. I think people really can connect to it and have this feel-good moment about the show, which is very important.
Yeah. Colin was mentioning to me that there's a WhatsApp group with all of the bakers from all of the seasons, like 50 plus bakers, and they share stories.
I joined it on the first season, then I got out from it because it takes too much time. But now there is 50 bakers. I think most of them go on it, and they talk about everything and share recipes and season 1 was only 10 of them or 9, and I can chat, but when there is 50, it takes too much time. So.
Tell us more about your work with Swallowtail Secret Dinners. I read about that just briefly.
It's I don't do anything. I just go there and cook. So we always pick a theme. And usually I only work with woman chef to do it for many reasons, but I prefer working with woman chef in the kitchen. It's less it's less territorial. It's more fact-based for me. And I find the touch of the food or creativity a bit different. So usually only 90% of the time it's a woman chef working with me. And then the organizer sells the tickets, and then I go buy my food. Usually we do it. So it's like a secret, people bring their own wine. We do it different location. Obviously with COVID, we have to stop, but we just started to do it. My first one this year was 3 weeks ago. A bit smaller than usual, but it's, we do 5-course menu, small portion, and people, they don't know each other. So you just sit on a long table and meet people and have a great time. And I think it's more and more the way food should be shared and, proposed. I think you don't need to spend a lot of money for a meal. You don't need to spend $200 for dinner. You never used to. Expensive restaurant, it's something from the 90s. Before 1980, you could eat a great meal for less than $20. So, I don't buy anymore that idea. You need to spend $200-300. It's a waste of money. I follow Jay Rayner, he's one of the food writer from, I think, The Guardian in England. And I love reading his reviews. I mean, there is one about the Georges V hotel in Paris where he spent €600 for dinner, and he had a bad experience. It's arrogance, it's greed, it's ego, but it has nothing to do with food.
Yeah.
It's $1 billion of food goes to waste every year. I mean, it's if you see the amount, you'd be upset. People know, people heard. I see it often, and it's not one problem. It's multiple problems put together. The place that offer all you can eat buffets, it's not good. How much can you eat? The oversizing of portion, this is not good. You don't need, when you see those cocktail, those Bloody Mary with that ton of food stuck on the top of each other. For me, that's food waste. You don't need to eat that much. Never lose sight that a lot of people are starving in Canada today. One of the projects I drive every day, there is a food bank, and to see people lined up in front of the food bank, it's heartbreaking. In a rich country like Canada, it should not be happening. So it's a huge problem, not easy to fix. It's food is expensive. So if you cannot afford it, you should not be ashamed to go to the food bank. Do what you have to do, but the food waste, start at home. People want that perfect fruits. So I grew up where fruit were ugly, and you go to the supermarket and you pick whatever you want. Now people expect the perfect banana, the perfect apple, or they won't buy it. Nothing wrong with it, but they won't touch it. That fruit, that banana goes in a landfill. That creates another sort of problem with pollution. Methane gas coming from composting, it's very polluting. And then once you get home, who said you have to peel your carrots? You don't need to peel your carrots. Peeling a lot of vegetable creates food waste. You don't need it. I mean, I eat my carrots, I wash them, and I keep the peel. Potatoes the same. Mashed potato with skin on, it's great mashed potato. So it's education. It's buying what you need. Don't buy because you want your fridge to be full. If the date is expired, doesn't mean it's bad. Best before doesn't mean it's going to make. You have to. If it's best before the 16th, you're still going to 17 and 18.
Yeah.
That doesn't have, but people dump it, and I think it's a sizing. When I see. And there is this idea that fast food is cheap. It's not cheap for what it is. It's overpriced for that matter. That soda you pay whatever. It's full of sugar. There is no nutrients, and it doesn't have to be that way. Good food is cheap. You can make a great potato leek soup with $2.50. As simple as that. But some people rather spend $60 on a fast food delivery with Uber or DoorDash and see the value into this instead of going to the farmers market on their day off.
I hear you're working on a new cookbook for next year. right?
Yep.
The
Yeah, we
Bacon,
are.
Butter, Bourbon and Chocolate Cookbook. So tell us, what was the inspiration for this, and what sort of recipes can we expect to see in this new cookbook?
What is it not to like with all those wordings? Um, More savory dishes. I think 25% of the recipes are savory, from salmon, duck, pork belly. So some crossover and more rustic recipes. There is a more of a feel-good connection. The first cookbook is always difficult. It's always, what should I put in it? And I don't want to do, all about me. It's, sure, the name is Baking with Bruno, but it's not about me. It's really, I think recipes are stories. And that's critical to make things. You have to read a recipe like a story, and a cookbook is like a compilation of stories. So the second one, it's more rustic, more down to earth, having more savory recipes. And then I'm already drafting the third cookbook, which are more like what I cook at home when I was a kid with my family. So it's more like farm to table. I grew up in a family of German, Italian immigrants who grew up and lived in North Africa for a long time. Wow. So, at home was a lot of food coming from all over. From lamb brain cooked with garlic and butter to roasted duck hearts. So it's the third one is more like farm to table. But the second one is almost finished. It should be out to the publisher in January, I think.
We're going to look forward to that one. You have overcome many challenges in your personal life. You've been named one of the top 10 pastry chefs in America by Chocolatier magazine for 2 years in a row. You've been nominated twice for the James Beard Award for Outstanding Pastry Chef. What would you say is your greatest accomplishment in life?
Becoming a dad, becoming a father, definitely. Yeah. What bring back 20 years to it's like you reset the clock backward. You feel younger, you feel more energized. It's a scary, it's for sure. I became a father very late, at 43, I think. Biggest accomplishment.
That's great. Congratulations. Yeah, it's an important job to be a parent.
Yeah, even more for me because I never met my father. So, to become, I wrote an article for Toronto mental health publication, and the title was "Becoming the Father I Never Had," and I speak about that experience, and far and beyond becoming a dad is my biggest accomplishment.
That's great. Congratulations. Where are you joining us from, Chef Bruno? Is this another restaurant that you have, or where are you right now?
No, I'm doing a project. We're on a project. We're doing a pop-up bakery in outside Vancouver. So that's why you hear a lot of noise. It's been crazy busy. From a last-minute project too. So we're talking cookies by the thousand. It's like non-stop. Yeah, so
that's exciting. What advice do you have for kids or even home bakers who are interested in getting better or just interested in baking in general? What advice do you have for them?
It's all about trial and error. If you knew how many recipes I failed at, if you knew how many things I could not understand, you'd be amazed, So you never let a bad recipe hold you back. It's all about making mistakes and a lot of burning, not whipping properly. Trial and error, it's a foundation of any successful baker, for sure.
Where do you see yourself in the next 5 to 10 years? You've got a second and third cookbook coming out, and where do you see yourself?
I don't know. I'm being fairly lucky, so let's hope the luck don't run out of energy. I don't know. The show should be renewed for 6 seasons. And if not, probably another pop-up bakery, definitely. The book, take some time off. I don't know, I never worry about the future. It's been good for me the last 30 years, so why should it change? So yeah, I'm not too concerned. Yeah.
Well, we wish you continued success. If our readers want to follow you, is Instagram the best place, or the website? What do you prefer?
I only use Instagram. I am on Facebook, but I don't use it. But no Twitter, Instagram. My whole name, Bruno Feldeisen. That's some lot of great photos, great contents. It's a mix of family, business, and project as well. So Instagram is the best, and people can reach out to me. I respond to messages on Instagram.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, I did follow you on Instagram. Thank you for following me too.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Great holiday, and it was very nice to talk to you. Okay.
Thank you, Bruno. Merci.
Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye-bye.